Welcome to Connect Through Beauty 2.0. My name is Ashley Rivera, and I am so excited that you are here.
I'm Krista Bartik, and we are here to help you navigate the challenges and embrace the mistakes that come with this rewarding but demanding industry. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, our goal is to provide you with the knowledge and inspiration you need to help you level up within your career. Consultation starts with greeting your guests, how you walk up front, how you carry yourself, and how firm that handshake is. You know, during COVID, we weren't doing these handshakes, so that was a little bit different.
Oh,
however,
so weird.
It was interesting. I'm like, what do I do with my hands? I said, hi. You know, my hands are like on my sides.
It was kind of, I'm a big hugger too.
It was strange.
I want to
hug.
Yeah, it was terrible. But
yeah, it was like, well, I don't feel comfortable shaking your hand, but you know, my hands are going to be on your head for the next 4 hours.
Yeah,
but it was just such a weird time. But I think that whole consultation experience starts with greeting your guest, walking up front, saying, hey, you know, my name is blank, asking how they're doing today, greeting them with a firm handshake, and then welcoming them to your station is going to be the start and kind of set the tone for the whole appointment. So especially coming up front with a positive attitude and, you know, maybe not a ton of energy to where you're scaring them away, but, you know, enough and a warming energy. That way, when they sit in your chair, they already feel like they know you. I think that is super, super important for a new client sitting in the chair. But starting the consultation, how would you feel in terms of, you know, greeting the guests, bringing them to your chair? Do you have any ways you like to help make your client feel more comfortable?
Yeah. So turning them around to face me and getting on their level. So so whether that was sitting on the windowsill or if I needed to kneel down or however I could get with them where it was just you and I talking, I'm not through a mirror, you know, I just want to get to know you. That was my vibe, and it just felt real to me. It felt like more relationship. And the draping I always did like after that talk, right? So like, now I feel like now we're going to get started. Like now we're going to have this professional, now we're going to do your hair, you know? I think to have that be like, this is the next step. Now we're going into the next step. That was just my thing. But everyone has their own way of doing things, right? And I don't know if one way is right or wrong. It was what felt right for me, was to start it at their level and to talk that way.
Yeah, I love that. I think the eye level is super important and not talking to them through a mirror, because as a client sitting there, I don't feel heard if I'm discussing my hair and my wants and needs through a mirror. Whereas then they turn around and it's just, it doesn't flow well for me. So I do agree in terms of sitting in front of them, or maybe leaning up against the wall, pulling up a stool if you have the extra time to bring that over, or maybe you keep a stool at your station because you cut with it or color with it. I think that is another way to get on that eye level with your client and have that conversation. It's important for them to feel heard, and that's a great way to do it. But going into the consultation, there's, you know, certain things I like to say to help kind of guide that conversation, because a consultation I do think is super, super important, and a long consultation I think is important. However, there is a line where it's kind of like, okay, this consultation is getting a little too long. And it's important as a stylist for us to take control of the driver's seat and steer the conversation in the way it needs to go. Right. So I have some clients, you know, we like to talk a little bit, catch up, but I think it's important to say like, hey, you know, why don't you tell me that story after I mix up your color, but let's talk about your hair. How has your hair been? That's a big one I like to say for a returning client. However, for a new client, I like to start the conversation in terms of, tell me about your hair, or what are your hair goals? And that leaves an open-ended question for my client to fill in and get off their chest whatever they're thinking. What are your thoughts on starting that conversation and preventing the conversation from going too long?
No, I love that. I'm a big believer in let's keep it to just what we're going to be doing today. We're going to get all business out of the way. And as soon as I'm on the same page as you and we're doing this together, then I want you to tell me all the stories, because I'm going to work and I'm just going to listen to everything that you have to say. And I think that's important. I want to give you that focus and that time to be able to tell me all the stories about the graduation, the new vacation, or the boyfriend, or the divorce, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
All these things, I want to hear it, but I'm not going to be in that right frame of mind if it's during the consultation, because I have to know what I'm doing. Once I can get that out of the way, then we can talk about whatever, right? So I think that is really, really important and good for your time management.
Yes.
I think for them, they'll get used to that. They'll get used to that. Sally, you know that we can't talk about this right now. Talk about hair.
Yes. But we've all been there. We all have those clients where
Girl,
yes. So it's important to steer that conversation in the direction you want it to go, because again, this consultation, it is important to take the 10 minutes. However, how you use those 10 minutes is very important. But
how do you, I want to know, do you write things down? And is that how you listen, or do you just kind of like actively listen? You're kind of thinking in your mind, you're going through the whole thing, or like what's your way of getting that communication going?
That's a great question. So I don't write things down. I'm a big writer in terms of, like, I love my notebook. I've had this notebook since cosmetology school, and I just write everything in it. It's like my brain is just condensed into this booklet. However, I find with the consultation, I write down things of points of topics and conversation I want to hit in the consultation, and then I apply that to my client. But my number one rule of thumb is I will not leave that consultation until I feel comfortable and the client feels comfortable with proceeding with the service. So if I find there's maybe something that we talked about, for example, like the tone of the hair, maybe there's something we talked about, but we didn't quite go into depth on it, I will circle the conversation back around that to make sure we're on the same page. So I don't write things down, but I do make a point of making sure we hit every little thing, because I don't want to be foiling my client's hair and being like, oh, do you want a bright face frame? Like, do you like it brighter on here? Like, no, that should have been discussed in the consultation, because that's going to help the client feel understood and heard.
Definitely.
But I do think writing things down can be great if you need help in terms of balancing that. I have found over time, it's kind of become a routine with the questions I ask and just going with the flow and the energy of that client that I'm with at that moment.
Great. I love that. And again, I think it goes back to the preference, right? Like everyone, their thing that works for them. And maybe for someone that's in the beginning of, starting their journey in doing hair and talking with clients, maybe that's a good idea to start doing that. If you feel like I need to actively listen, this is hard for me to pay attention, so I need to write, at least whatever, important topics down. But and I think actively listening. So what do you do to make sure that your mind is literally on that person and you're just listening to them, because it's very distracting in the salon? So how do you hone in on just listening to what they have to say?
So that's also a great question, because it can get very busy in the background, and I do have ADHD, so it can go that way. I'm like, I feel like we all have ADHD at this point.
So true.
But, making sure that I'm making that eye contact with that client and maybe repeating certain things. So if they are telling me keywords, let's say they're using like bold or ashy, or, these key points, I'm kind of repeating back to them to help the client know that, okay, I hear you and I'm listening to what you're saying right now.
I
A
love,
little nodding and a little repeating will kind of help guide it. However, I see this happen all the time where they say one thing and we tend to just like, go over and take over the whole consultation. But I think it's really important to allow your client to get everything out first and then breaking down the image or breaking down their hair, step by step, because that's going to allow your client to feel like every need was met.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree
So
more.
when it comes to that inspiration photo, because 9 out of 10 clients nowadays, they're not sitting down having a conversation about their hair. They're sitting down and they're showing you this picture off of Instagram or Pinterest. And they're like, can you do this? So it's important to break down that photo. I always recommend breaking it down into 3 parts. So if you're looking at a picture, I separate the face frame as a whole, because now there's bold face frames, or maybe it's skinny up here, gets bold towards the ends, or maybe there's no face frame at all. I think that is a topic of discussion in itself. Then also breaking down the roots to mids as one area, and then the mids to ends as another. Is it dimensional through here? Is it dimensional through the ends? Is it solid? Breaking down that photo after allowing your client to show you the photo and asking them, what do you like about this picture? Why did you show me this? I think that is super, super important for the guest and for your stylist to kind of bridge the gap between these 2 different worlds, because our clients see something totally different than we do. So using that as a guide on where to go, I think is really, really crucial to help keep that communication going. But as a client, what are some things that you feel that you can do to kind of help bridge that gap between the communication between stylist and client?
So, right. So like, I think, so in a client perspective, I think you should be picking pictures. I think you should bring pictures. I think they are, what a great way to communicate, especially when you're talking colors, because your color and my color that we're thinking in our head could be totally different and totally off. And I think when also you're dealing with filters too.
Yes.
So you have like all kinds of things going on. So not only just pointing out one picture, but bringing in multiple things of multiple different looks that, okay, I like this, but I don't like that. And definitely saying what you don't like. Because I think narrow things down where, you were thinking, I really was set on here, but you know what, now that I look at this, really don't like that. So I think that's so important. And I know that clients don't know everything that goes into doing that are out there these days. So being very upfront and explaining how things work and the why behind it is really, really crucial.
Absolutely. And I think that leads into pricing as well, because when we're giving them a quote, you were explaining to them, this is what's going to be done today, or this is what is needed to give you that inspo picture, but explaining the why behind it. It's like when you go and get your car serviced, they just throw a bunch of things at me. They're like, all right, you need your carbon air filter, your oil change, this fluid needs refilling, your rotate and balance. And I'm kind of sitting there like, well, why do I need those things?
Right.
Why do I need it? So explaining to your client, why they need that root shadow, or why they need the treatment, why they need a haircut, is going to help determine the price overall and make it more realistic and help them understand why the ticket is so high, or why it's going to cost this, or why it's going to take that long today.
Definitely.
Now, pricing, what are some things, because that can be a very uncomfortable conversation. I know sometimes I still get a little choked up over it, saying these numbers out loud. I'm like, oh my God. But what are some things that help you guide that conversation and lead into that during a consultation?
I think you always need to be true to what you're doing. Like, don't be the beauty professional that does the honest thing, right? So don't just charge someone because you want to make extra money that day. Charge it because You are the professional, number one, and they in order to have the look, they need it. So if you're honest, you tell them why, you believe that you are the professional, you will be successful and succeed, because people want the honest truth. Even if I can't do what you're asking for today, I'm going to honestly tell you, I can't do that today. Your hair's not going to, I could, but you wouldn't walk out of here with beautiful hair. And that's my name on that, and my integrity. And today I want you to have beautiful hair, and this is the way it's going to, X, Y, and Z is what needs to happen. So I think come from a place of honesty, integrity, and showing them the reason behind everything is where you need to come from, and showing them the price. If you're in that space, it's just the way it is. And this is the business that you are the professional, and you deserve to offer this price, and experience for the client. You put so much time and effort into everything that you do. And I think if you're out there listening and you are struggling with pricing and things like that, I want you to think about this. From the moment that you wake up, that starts the experience of the client. You know what I mean? You give yourself the time that you need. You fill yourself up, you start your routine, you show up to work, and you are prepared, because you have prepared for how many years, right? Or for how many months until you start those clients. And all that experience, all that work comes with every client.
Discussing pricing, I always toss it in after we've talked about everything. So we've discussed what exactly is going to happen. We've discussed haircut, tone, placement, treatment, whatever went into that consultation. I'm starting pricing afterwards. It's one of the very last things I do before I mix up the color. It's not the very last thing, but it's pretty close to it. I tell them, okay, so let's talk about how much this is going to cost today. That is a verbiage I like to use to help guide the conversation into that pricing. And it smoothly transitions over to me telling them, everything we talked about, and then kind of giving them a price breakdown. But when giving pricing, I always give a range as well, because especially for a new client, you don't know if you're going to use extra color, or maybe things don't go as planned. So I think giving that range is going to be really important. And it also lets your client know, like, okay, this is the most I'm going to spend, and this is the least I'm going to spend. And they appreciate that honesty. So if you tell them, hey, my total today is going to be $350 to $400, they're expecting $400, and they walk up to the front and it's $350, they're good. They're not going to freak out. But if I tell them, hey, your total today is going to be $350, and then at the bowl, I'm like, okay, we have to do like another treatment or toner. They walk up front and it's $400. That can lead to an unhappy client, because that was not discussed in the beginning. So giving that range is super important. But leading into the conversation, let's talk about how much this is going to cost today, and being firm with my response. We tend to answer questions with question marks. So they say, yeah, why do I need that root shadow? Well, the root shadow is going to give you like a nice blend. Like, that doesn't sound very certain to me. That sounds a little confusing. So I'm making sure I'm ending my statements with, or ending my sentences with periods, not question marks.
Love it. Very good. That's but good point. I like that. Yeah, because you don't want to leave things open-ended, confusing. It's, it doesn't feel right. It's uncomfortable. Like, that's the last thing people want to hear. And at the end of the day, everyone just wants you to tell them the truth.
Yeah.
Just tell me like it is. And I'll be good with it. And you know what? It's on them. This is what you're bringing to the table. This is what I think you need, or I know you need. And this is how much it's going to cost. Would you like to do that today? Are we proceeding? That's up to them.
Yeah. Now, what would you do if a client says no to that price, or maybe they're not comfortable with moving forward? How would you guide that conversation?
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I would follow up. If you want this look, this is how much it's going to be. This is what it
Yeah.
will take that look. There is no skipping, steps, or there's no shortcuts to get there. This is the way it's going to be. So if you don't want this, then we need to look at a completely different thing. And
Love it.
That's where I would go with that, because I think that's again saying I am firm on this is what I believe it will take. So
I love that.
yeah,
that's perfect. Especially reiterating, it is not going to look like this photo you showed me today. I'm open to other options.
Sure.
However, we're going to need to pick a different inspiration photo.
For sure. Going
I
back
love
to
that.
Yeah, because I think people, this happens a lot when you do corrective color. And I think people get into this like weird spot with corrective color, unrealistic expectations, all of that stuff. And again, it goes back to honesty and just being upfront. Like, if my hair is a level 3 and I want to be you, that's unless you don't want to have hair, like, and I think you have to keep it light. I mean, it's but it is the truth. And I think being that hairstylist with integrity and being prideful in what you do all stems back to the unrealistic expectations. If you can't do something for someone, be honest and say it.
Yes.
I think that's going to take you miles and miles and miles throughout your career.
And I've done that before. I have turned people away. Maybe they weren't booked for a long enough time, or maybe their hair just can't handle it. I have told people no. And let me tell you, those clients that I have said no to are some of my most loyal clients ever, because they are so grateful that I chose the health of their hair over the money they were going to bring in for that full balayage. Like that right there built so much trust that they are now a client for life because of that. And
that, I'm so happy you said that, because that's what people are scared of. And they're scared to lose the client, but you can't be scared to lose. You're going to lose them anyway. You do the hair, you go ahead and you do what you shouldn't do, you're going to lose them anyway. And I think it's better to just not even do it, not go through that hassle, and then have all those bad reviews that, the person about and whatnot. But I think, just saying this is an unrealistic expectation, but we can do so much more. And here, let's go through the options.
Yeah, I love that. And that leads a whole nother conversation as well, because knowing when a client is a good fit or not. There's going to be clients that sit in your chair that maybe they're asking for something you're not comfortable with, or maybe the client has unrealistic expectations, and no matter how much you try and lower them, they're not meeting you. It's important to know it's okay to not proceed with that service. Right. I have, there's a term, firing a client. I have done that before. It's something we've all been through. And it's not that I didn't want to do that service or I didn't want to proceed with that service, but it's knowing that no matter what I do or what I say, I cannot make this client happy. And it would just save you time and money in the long run by just turning them away in the first place and directing them to someone else.
Right. And it also saves on you and your energy.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
It's just, I didn't do it often. I think I may have done it to 2 people in my whole career. But I would dread, I mean, it would take the whole day out of me just to about this person coming in the door. And that's not why we got into this business, and I think that is a whole other conversation. And we'll get into that. For sure.
I was there, like, just writing that down.
Wow. That's a whole thing. But again, going back to who you are as a service provider, stay true to you, have the integrity, the honesty, and to know when I'm just not I'm not the one for you. Today
Yep.
it seems like I can't make you happy, but I bet you there's someone out there that can, and
Yeah.
and that's okay to say.
And that is something that is done within the consultation. So,
Mhm.
when you go through all these things and you kind of have that feeling, I always say trust your intuition, because your gut will tell you.
For
You'll
sure.
you'll know when a client is maybe not a good fit for you, or it's not going to go in the right direction. And when to do that in that consultation would kind of be after discussing their goals for their hair, or maybe after discussing like pricing a little bit. If you feel like it's not a good fit, that is a time to discuss that. But
Yeah.
wrapping up the consultation, because I do feel it is important when moving forward into the service, there is a period where you go from, talking about the hair and the pricing to actually like starting the service. When it
Yes.
comes to ending the consultation, I usually recommend to anybody listening or any assistance, I would recommend going through a list of everything you talked about, because a 10-minute consultation, it's a lot.
Mhm.
Tone, placement, pricing, it's a lot of information to digest. So giving them like a bullet point description of everything you talked about, and then getting the okay from the client to make sure you guys are on the same page before moving forward, I think is probably the most important part of the consultation.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I can't
But
agree more. That's a space where they can say, you know what? Actually, I don't think I wanted it to be like that. Or,
yep,
great way to be on the same page, to know that you're on the same
yeah,
page. Yeah.
absolutely. And that's something where, let's say if they don't feel comfortable moving forward, I ask myself, where did I go wrong in that consultation? Or
Mhm.
is there an area where I skipped over a little too quickly that I should have been slowing down on? So kind of going back up on my bullet list of things I wanted to check off during the consultation, going back up and then starting back down, and then making sure we're on the same page before moving forward.
Hello everyone, it's Ashley Rivera. I just wanted to let you know about Canvas Me. Have you guys heard of this platform yet? Oh my goodness, talk about a game changer. If you are a salon owner and you have trouble recruiting, this is the platform for you. So go to canvasme.com right now, sign up today. You will not regret it. The people that I recruit on this platform are incredible. They are our people. Every salon has its own culture. And guys, you as a salon professional out there, you're looking for a salon to join, this is the platform to join too, because now you can look for your home, your place, the atmosphere, the environment that you want and you've been always envisioning. So guys, check it out right now, canvasme.com. You won't regret it.